my father refuses to be my wali because he doesn't want to approve someone I see as a suitable potential husband. Is this allowed, and can I request someone else to assume his position as my wali? Adlul wali is a fiqh term for when the father or guardian unjustly deprive the daughter or someone they're entrusted with from marriage. It's called adlul wali. Ma'qil ibn Yasar radiallahu anh had a sister who was a divorcee. After her iddah was over, her ex-husband wanted to remarry her again. That angered Ma'qil ibn Yasar radiallahu anh, as it would most guardians. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed a verse on this matter. وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ فَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ أَن يَنكِحْنَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ إِذَا تَرَاضَوْا بَيْنَهُم بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Basically, the order is directed to the guardian. If the woman fully divorced, don't prevent them from remarrying their ex-husbands. Don't prevent them from marriage. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam called Ma'qil ibn Yasar. He recited the verse to him, and as expected from a great sahabi like Ma'qil, he put his pride aside, radiyallahu an, and he submitted to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A guardian cannot unjustly deprive his daughter of marrying someone suitable, especially if it's going to cause her harm or if it's going to cause her to commit a haram. He also can't force her to marry someone she doesn't want. We explained that in a previous fatwa. But at the same time, she shouldn't hasten to attempt to bypass his authority. Marriage is a major decision in life. And many times there's disagreements that occur within the family pertaining to potential spouses. It's not wise for the sister to try to hasten bypassing her father's authority in this matter when there's a conflict. Of course, we're talking about a Muslim father who unjustly oppressed or delayed or refused to marry off his daughter. The father is usually someone who deeply cares about his daughter. He considers her his flesh and blood. She's his heart and soul. He's a man who took food out of his mouth to feed her all throughout her life. He deprived himself of luxuries to see her happy. He's the one who would give his life to defend hers. That must be kept in mind. There's exceptions to that, but that's generally how fathers are. Sisters shouldn't forget who their fathers are when disagreements over nikah occur. Some are eager to get married, and they're so emotionally charged up with the marriage proposal. The first instinct they have is how to dismiss the father's guardianship if there's any conflict. There's no doubt that it's her right not to be oppressed or harmed in this matter, nor can she be forced. And the choice is hers, within the limits of the Sharia. But it's also a mighty matter to dismiss the father's guardianship. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen at times, but that should be the last option. Back in the days, the Arab had a proverb that says, آخر الطب الكي, or آخر الدواء الكي. When one would get sick, they would try different remedies to treat them. If nothing works, the very last remedy would be cauterizing them, which is branding them with fire. It would be the very last option because it's extremely painful. And likewise, when the father is Muslim, the very last remedy should be to dismiss the father's guardianship over the marriage proposal. When there's disagreements on potential khuttab, it can be talked out. You can bring the mother to intervene. Bring other families to convince each other. Maybe the daughter's wrong. She's not understanding the father's reasons. Maybe they're legitimate reasons. Bring people of knowledge, people close to the father, people the father respects, and they can intervene in the matter. Some get so eager and charged up with emotions, they unjustly try to find a way to declare their fathers as kuffar, to bypass his guardianship. Because a kafir can't be the guardian over a Muslimah by ijma'. Ibn Qudama and Ibn al-Mundhir said a kafir can't be a wali for a Muslimah. It may be that the father has the wisdom and outlook that the daughter didn't see. Maybe he's the one that's right and that he has good reasons for what he chose. Just as we say the daughter must be careful in overriding the father's guardianship, the father needs to be careful not to oppress his daughter and not to delay her marriage, or not to force her and not to harm her in any way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted the father with that daughter. His daughter is an amana, and he shouldn't deceive nor oppress that amana, because it's something he will be questioned about. ما من عبد يسترعيه الله رعية يموت يوم يموت وهو غاش لرعيته إلا حرم الله عليه الجنة. There's no one who's entrusted with the affairs of others, and then he dies being dishonest with those he's entrusted with, except that Jannah will be forbidden upon him. A wali, a guardian, who's usually the father, cannot oppress whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted him with by refusing to let her get married if the potential spouse is suitable and if he fulfills the Shari'i criteria. He doesn't want to fall under the dua of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allahumma man waliya min amri ummati shay'an fashaqqa alayhim fashquq alayh. وَمَنْ وَلِيَ مِنْ أَمْرِ أُمَّتِي شَيْئًا فَرَفَقَ بِهِمْ فَارْفُقْ بِهِ. The Messenger made the dua, Ya Allah, whoever has control over the affairs of my ummah, and he's hard upon them, then be hard upon him. And whoever is kind and gentle to them, be kind to him. If the matter hits a dead end, for example, the prospective husband is suitable, he's good in his deen and his akhlaq, but there's matters of discretion that the father and daughter disagree on, and they exhausted all remedies, they can't find a solution. Or if the father, for example, wants to force the daughter into a marriage she doesn't want, or worse than that, if the father is someone who doesn't want his daughter to marry someone who follows the sunnah, or someone who follows the pure manhaj of tawheed, or he wants her to marry a fasiq, or he's seeking his own personal gain in the marriage. He's seeking his own interests, not her interest. Or the sister got a proposal she accepts, and she feels it would be dhulm on her that her father wants to delay it. She feels that she may fall into haram. There's hundreds of other scenarios. Now you hit a dead end. You exhausted all alternatives to settle this. Now you can seek to bypass the guardianship of the father. And it's something, a decision that must be done by someone knowledgeable. In an ideal society, it would be a judge appointed by the Khalifa. Here in the West, you seek someone with great knowledge on the matter, great experience and wisdom in the matter, someone who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, someone who's not seeking personal gain. He would need to analyze the matter and confirm the matter with all sides. He needs to make sure the father's reasons are not acceptable. And the ulama have two opinions on this. Some ulama say there's relatives that take over if the father refuses to marry the daughter off. So after the father, he refuses to marry her off, it goes to the paternal grandfather. Her sons, if she has sons, her full brothers, the paternal brothers, their children, who are her nephews, the paternal uncles, their children, who are her cousins. Some ulama say you need to go in order until the end, and at the end, if there's no one available, it goes to the sultan, the leader, and he takes over. The other opinion, the opinion of the majority of the ulama, they said when the reason for bypassing the father's guardianship is due to adl, he's refusing to marry her off, then it directly goes to the sultan, the leader, the judges appointed by the Khalifa, for example. Why? Because of the narration in Musnad Ahmad, فَإِنِ اشْتَجَرُوا فَالسُّلْطَانُ وَلِيُّ مَنْ لَا وَلِيَّ لَهُ. If there's a dispute, if there's a quarrel in the matter, the sultan is the guardian of the one who doesn't have a guardian. The previous opinion, the first opinion that said you have to go through the relatives, they said, yeah, you go to the sultan, but you go to the sultan after you exhaust the chain of relatives. Some today take this matter very loosely. Some may be desperate, wallahu a'lam. I don't want to go as far as saying they don't fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they're so desperate, they'll go to any jahil or any imam, and they know that imam. They may be on the correct aqidah, but they know that imam is a deviant. But since he'll easily override the guardianship of the father, they'll go to him. We've seen many who override the father's guardianship without ever contacting the father. The position of the guardian is a mighty position. The father is there to supervise and protect whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted him with. His job is to seek the benefit of his daughter. It's his duty, the guardian's duty, to find out about the person's deen and akhlaq. He's the one who goes and researches and finds out if this person's truthful. If he's truthful in his personal life, if needed, or financial situation, if needed. He explains to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted him with matters pertaining to the marriage. He gives her advice. For example, she's trying to marry someone in a different continent who has a travel ban. She may not be able to travel. There's very slim chances of them being together in person. He needs to explain the consequences of such a union. He's in prison. She wants to marry him. She needs to fully understand the ramifications of that. He protects her from one preying on her emotions and weaknesses. If she gives up her right of nafaqah, which is spending on her, which is her right, if she gives that right up, she needs to understand the consequences of that. Most women are easily affected by emotions. And at times, their emotions overpower their reasoning. They can easily be deceived by outward appearances without considering the reality of matters. And so the wali is there to protect her from that. If women are left to do the nikah without a proper wali, a wali who takes the task on wholeheartedly, many would hasten to marry without any delay, and it'll probably end up being someone incompetent who lacks deen and akhlaq. The guardian protects whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted him with from predators. The wali protects whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted him with from undermining her haya. So he engages in the negotiations on her behalf. He supervises the entire process. In some marriages that have issues, I've asked the sisters, who's your wali so we can talk to him? Many said, my husband brought him the night or the day of the nikah. I don't know who he is. I don't know who his name is. I never spoke to him before. Was that a wali or was that a third witness he brought to the nikah? Loosely dismissing the father as a wali without the proper procedure is dangerous and it causes great fasad. And loosely choosing anyone as a wali is just as bad. A wali must be active in the process of seeking and pursuing the interest of the one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted him with. He's not some imposter who takes the information of the sisters so he can be the wali, and if they suit his desires, they become his wives. They become the wali's wives. If not, he'll pass them on to someone else. Without a proper wali supervising and investigating and doing his duties, don't be surprised if the man who filled you with emotions turns out to be an abuser or a fasiq or a murji or someone who's blessed in music and smoking pot while issuing fatwas on social media. Without a proper wali, the shaitan may make his move and there may be haram interactions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save all our sisters from that. Then what happens after that? Now suddenly they seek a righteous sheikh to get them out of their situation. When the emotion and love settle a bit and the reality of marriage life surfaces, when things go pear-shaped, now suddenly they find a righteous sheikh to solve the situation. Now suddenly, sheikh, where's my khula? And the blame may be shifted on the sheikh for not giving them the khula on the spot. Brothers and sisters involved in these matters are equal in their guilt. This is an issue among Muslims in general, but our dear brothers and sisters upholding the pure manhaj of Tawheed are held on a higher standard. And I'm not talking about any particular situation. It's not tens, it's actually hundreds of cases. There's similar patterns in them. I asked many brothers about the way they married certain sisters. Would you allow your sister or your daughter to get married this way? And of course the answer is no. I asked some brothers, would you allow your sister to marry someone through an unknown wali? That khatib brought on the night of the nikah? I asked some brothers, would you let your sister or your daughter get married to someone who she finds out after marriage he can't spend on her and he can't spend more than a day every other month or so with her, and he barely calls her? This is not a game. Everything about marriage must be honored. Be truthful in matters about marriage because you will be questioned about them. Marriage is a mighty great covenant that must be honored. وَأَخَذْنَا مِنْكُمْ مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا. They've taken from you a firm, mighty, strong covenant. The only other covenant referred to in such strong terms is the covenant between ulul azm and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ مِيثَاقَهُمْ وَمِنْكَ وَمِنْ نُوحٍ وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ وَمُوسَى وَعِيسَى بْنِ مَرْيَمَ وَأَخَذْنَا مِنْهُمْ مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا.